Okay, so on the agenda, the first thing we have is graduation, which I think we're making some progress. When you say, Mr. Berman, we have a meeting on Friday where we're going to look at the facility, go over some of the rules.
Yeah, I would say a walkthrough. A walkthrough is really more,
also, we found out that, we didn't know if we were going to have 50 kids, 100 kids. Turns out we're having 238 kids said they're going to go.
Actually, let me give you the latest update, as I believe the survey is technically closed, but of course we'll take parent responses. It's not that kind of survey. Speaking of surveys, it's not on the agenda, but before I forget, tomorrow, I wanted to wait till after the CEC elections, but tomorrow we're going to send out information for this year's learning environment survey. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be something that somebody's very bouncy on their microphone if they could fix that. But that's the learning environment survey that students, parents, and staff get.
The email already went out. We just need the access codes.
The email about the survey?
Yeah, it says the My School survey, that one?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, the email went out. I tried to click on it, but I didn't have an access code.
So the access code is just F followed by your OSIS number. So if you have 3 kids, it's F followed by, each of their OSIS numbers. So you fill it out 3 times.
Look at you, you're a hacker.
Oh, I did it. I saw it online and I had time before 7 a.m. So I said, let me just do it now because, and the emails didn't even go out yet. So okay, I guess that's it. It's F.
Yeah, no,
number.
We didn't send it out. I'm not sure what information you got. Was it from me?
No,
I went straight.
Oh,
I just went straight on the DOE site, NYC DOE Learning Environment Survey. So when you put in, you click on the link on the DOE site, you type F followed by the OSIS number of each of your kids, and it comes up with the survey for that school. So I have 3 kids, 3 schools, each of their OSIS came up with the correct school.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So no, I wanted to wait until after the CEC elections because I didn't want multiple things and logins and where do I go for this, that, and the other. So I really just wanted people to focus on the CEC election, but tomorrow we'll send out some more information about that. But as far as graduation, the responses currently are 250 will be attending, 29 will not be attending, and 41 are considering attending. So, and that's out of 320 responses, which is, we have 342 students, 343 graduates, I should say. So that's pretty good response.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that, and we're working through the run of show with awards and presentations and who will speak, and everything is shaping up to be a real nice graduation. We'll just, of course, hope the weather holds out nicely for us. The ponchos are on the way, by the way.
Yep, that's the one variable, right?
Yep. It'll be fine. What else, Mr. File? We can't hear you.
Oops, sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure when our next SLT is, but I'm assuming it's before graduation in June. We should have everything all set by then. We should just be final stuff. Could you guys hear me now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So next on the agenda is advisory, which is something that we're still in the process of working on. Winnie, you're on the advisory committee, right? Do you want to give us like an idea? I wasn't at the meeting today. I was driving back. I'm not even sure I'm on that committee. There's a lot of committees going on in the school. Do you want to fill us in on where we are with that?
Yes. So last week we had two kind of staff interest meetings, with our staff to see who would be interested, because we are looking to start this advisory program in the next, for next school year in the fall. So we wanted to kind of just give them a brief intro and then see, who would want to be an advisor to the students. This would be, we told them kind of the basics things that we do know, and then some things that would still need to be worked out depending on the level of interest and how we can work it into the program. We got a pretty good response. We did it for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers, and we had about, I would say 20 or so teachers that were interested, which works out great. And our next step really is to see what kind of program would be the most appropriate, because we talked about, there are so many programs out there that already is geared towards this advisory, that we would want to find the right one that would fit our school population. And then from there, we can do another training or another meeting with our interested teachers only, and go from there to see, because I know, programming for next year is going to start in June, and then we can move forward with that with Jenny and Stephanie.
Yeah, and Courtney and I spoke with a company called Wayfinder. Very nice person. She presented, gave us some information on their program, which would fit really nicely with this. It's got a 6th grade curriculum, a 7th grade curriculum, and an 8th grade curriculum, all with 60 lessons in each one. What I liked most about it is any lesson could be like a one-off lesson. So the idea that we're going to be able to pull off 60 lessons might be overly ambitious, or may not even work. I mean, teachers don't like to be hemmed in like that. But the point that you could use any lesson as a standalone and sort of build out and kind of do your own thing, even off of those lessons, maybe pull together like 5 or 6 of them in a given time period and create like a little umbrella theme over them. There's lots of different things you can do. 60 lessons is a lot of raw material to work with. The only downside to them is they were very expensive. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember saying that, I thought it was a little pricey. But again, if we have money and we really want to roll with this, it might be an option. I'm sure there's other options to compare it to as well.
Right. And at the meeting today, we kind of discussed that, we want to start small and make it a great program, rather than start large and then not have that, engaging of interest. So we were thinking just focusing on 6th grade, one from each academy. That way we know exactly that we have enough teachers, advisors to support that and make it, and then that way they can really, get together and have a great, like, a common planning time and be able to really discuss any issues that they see come up within their advisory groups. So that's kind of where we're heading into, is being able to have one 6th grade class from each academy to start this program.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd like to add just a little bit, and just for parents and students who haven't been involved with this yet. The idea is to have teachers with a small group of students, 10 to 12 students, who they can really get to develop relationships with. And we've looked at different ways to do that, and we've tried different school-wide projects, kind of like this before, nothing really like this, but we've tried a service approach and found that really just sort of saying, well, everybody, of course everybody would like to do service and would want to do service, and why not? And it didn't pan out that way. So what we found was that most of the success really comes from when people are really vested in something and really want to do it, and so that they're not forced to do it. It's something that really comes from inside, and so that I think is a real important piece of this program. So, you know, starting small, seeing how we can afford it, when it's going to happen. Obviously, we don't want to take away from our educational programs, although this is obviously part of our educational program, but from our academic programs, given, you know, the year we've had, and perhaps the need to catch up with some students who I'll share a little bit about our incoming 6th grade shortly. But yeah, so I think it's a really exciting program and a really exciting thing. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, you too, Leandra. Okay, so any questions on it? Anyone? All right, so I guess we'll go to the next one. Next on the agenda is COVID policy update. It seems to be an ever-changing thing. Anything new? Are schools within the city situation as well? I know the city is opening up. More restaurants going to be at full capacity. Any rumors that that's going to pass down more to schools? Anything that you've heard, Mr. Berman, about maybe September? Anything, Vito?
I have only heard what you have heard in the newspapers. Perhaps you might have heard more from the UFT. I don't know, but they generally keep us in the dark with these things until they decide what it is that they want to do. So there's been no change in the space requirements, wearing masks. There's been no updates for September. Really just
Yeah.
no, there's been very little information as of late, in fact.
Well, like Vito said, the 12 and over Pfizer, I think, vaccine has been approved.
Yep.
And
It's a two-step process. The FDA approved it. Now CDC has to approve it, and then they could start, right? I think they said maybe Thursday or Friday they could actually start doing it.
so I guess that's going to be rolling out in June. 100% of teachers returning to 187 in September. Well, Wink, I don't know. You know, I think I had a union meeting, and Ellen was speculating with some information she's heard. And what she's heard is that the medical accommodations are going to be much more narrow. They were much broader this year. So she also said the UFT is in favor of opening schools with as many kids and as many teachers as possible. So she was speaking like that's a good thing. I think that, it really comes from the other side. So to me, if they're going to give parents a choice to go remote, my guess is 187 will have a reasonably high percentage of parents that want their kids to remain remote. Too many probably, but let's say it's 25%. So then the question will be, how are those kids getting educated? Are they going to be educated with 187 teachers? Is there going to be a pool of teachers somewhere else? My feeling is that the DOE has failed to pull off the group of teachers to educate all the remote kids in different places. I don't think they have the ability to do it. So I don't know. I hope all the teachers are coming back, and I hope all the kids are coming back. The school would feel so much better. It would be such a return to normalcy. I do think, the people that have been out for almost a year and a half are going to have an adjustment period, because it's hard to work from home and then go back into the building and change and commute and do all that stuff. But Wink, I hope so.
I think it's an interesting question, and Mr. Mora, I mean, maybe you can clarify the question a little bit too. I'm not sure if I can certainly understand Mr. Files' response, and it's a really good one, but maybe you didn't mean returning from remote, maybe you just meant returning or going to other schools, or are we
Retired.
hiring any of them? Or I'm not really sure what you meant by your
That's true.
question.
That's
Well,
true. I took it that way.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
What I mean by the question is, given what we're hearing in the press and what I hear kind of rumblings outside of the school and from private schools and non-sectarian schools, is the question is, are 100% of the teachers willing to return to McAuliffe? So the McAuliffe teachers, will 100% of them be willing to return to school if the DOE, if that is the science?
Yeah. Well,
You
when
have
you
a suggestion.
say
Are you saying, so hold on. So are they willing to, or are you saying if given the choice, will they come or will they stay home?
Well, I think it's a two-pronged question, right? Because we're hearing in the press that that the teachers union, the UFD, I guess the AFT, not the UFD, but the AFT specifically, Randy Weingarten and her cohorts
Yeah.
appear to be looking for reasons not to have the teachers compelled to return to school in September. That's the politics. That's
I understand. So,
for the
so the
press.
answer,
that's the anti-union narrative.
Right,
So, well, maybe it is, but the question is,
yes.
is the teacher community viewpoint that they are willing to return? Because the sense I'm getting from teachers that I know in the public school system, that they aren't so thrilled about returning to school in September if they don't have to. Like one of the comments I got from a teacher outside of 187 in the school in Staten Island is that one teacher told me, "Hey, I work from my car phone. I'm okay with that, and I still get paid." So I'm just trying to get a sense of the temperature and the feelings about teachers returning back to school. Are they or are they not? The private schools, teachers are going back. Public schools, it seems we have kind of a separation of.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. I would bet that a teacher who's satisfied himself or herself with teaching from their car is probably not doing a really good job. And you would that attitude would manifest itself in many ways that transcend just, wanting to work from home. But I would imagine the level of work and competency is quite low across the board there. And I'm hoping that your experience with our teachers at the Krista McAuliffe School would give you the impression that that's not what they're looking for.
Mr. Berman,
they're looking for the best ways that they can reach the children.
Mr. Berman, I'm not at all suggesting whether or not teachers want to go back to school. I'm not suggesting that at all. That isn't the question. It's more of, because you hear everything comes down from the UFT and the AFT. And I'm not a union member and I don't know how it really works, but just based on what I'm hearing and what I'm reading in the press and what I'm hearing from others, that the AFT is kind of driving the bus here.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Here's what I'll tell you. The problem is not with the unions. That I can assure you. The problem is with our leadership here in New York City. That is squarely where the problem lies. The lack of information, the lack of planning, the lack of foresight. That I believe is squarely where the problem lies. I think when you look at a union and the AFT and the UFT or the CSA or any union, frankly, their role is to protect their membership. And if they tell you anything otherwise, that their primary role is something else, it's just not the case. The primary role of a union is to protect their membership. Now, at the same time, the UFT being charged with leading almost 100,000 educators clearly has demonstrated over the last 40 years that they do have the children's interests in mind. I am quite comfortable with that. And I can tell you that the accommodations and the whole process that came out this year, that was all approved by the DOE. That was not the union that did that. The UFT, the DOE did that. So I think we need to look really carefully and say, and what I can tell you about the Krista McAuliffe teachers, because I don't really want to belabor the point, but it's an interesting, conversation. But the thing I can tell you about our Krista McAuliffe teachers is that they want to be with the children at the greatest extent that they possibly can, while at the same time making sure that everybody's safe. Their families are safe, that their kids are safe, that meaning their own kids and their school kids.
Well,
And so to answer, just to get to the answer of your question, are 100% of the teachers returning in September? I'm going to say the chances are slim that 100% of the teachers are returning to September. I can tell you there's already a teacher who is probably not coming back because they live very far away from our school. And it's really, that's an issue and an understandable concern for them. I expect that there is a retirement incentive. I do expect that there probably will be some teachers who would exercise the retirement incentive if it's made available to them, which it looks like it probably will be. So it's really not a fair question to ask. If that's why I wanted the clarification. Are they returning to IS 187 in September? Sometimes people move and they want to work closer to home. They want to get a job in Staten Island.
Well, wait, just 1 second. I just want to be very clear. The question is not besmirching the 187 teachers.
I understand.
The question is simply, for example, there was one, I guess, one aspect of the CDC and AFT kind of commentary that if a teacher lived at home with someone who had comorbidities, that teacher could find a way of, didn't have to return to school. That's documented. So that's the question I'm asking. I'm not.
You so.
I'm not at all. I'm just asking the question.
Wait, I'm confused though. That's documented that somebody said in September. If someone
this is recent dialogue, recently in the press, that one of the discussions held between the CDC and the AFT, I believe it is, that if the teachers were living with someone who had comorbidities during this time, that they do not have to return to school.
That hasn't come out for the DOE at all. We have no.
I didn't say the DOE.
And you know what?
Wait, I said the CDC.
No.
The UF and the AFT. I didn't say DOE.
There's going to be a ton of issues that have to be brought up. For instance, people have said to me, "What if I'm not comfortable coming back? I'm just really nervous about the virus." And I said, "Well, look, I'll just give you my opinion. Vaccines are available. If the numbers are down, this is your job. Your job is in the building, not to talk to a computer." So I talk to a lot. I mean, I'm the chapter leader. I talk to people in the union all the time. I have heard nothing where people said, "Hey, we want to work from home forever." I hear it. It's in the press. There's a lot of BS out there.
But Ms. Fallon, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just telling you. I'm just reiterating what I've read. I'm not saying that a teacher made that comment. This is the conversation that's taking place between the CDC and the AFT or the UFT. I forget which one of the two.
Well, but
that's all I'm saying. I
know. Look, Wink, I'm not suggesting you're saying otherwise. I just think it's sort of interesting how, if the city offers parents the right for their kids to learn from home for no apparent reason, whose fault is that? That there's kids still working from home. If kids are living, if kids are going to be at home, how are they going to be taught? Like, why isn't the city saying everyone has to come to school? Why is that being offered as an option? I think that's the issue that really needs to come out. Kathleen, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yeah. Hi. Oh, sorry. I'll turn my camera on. Our Wi-Fi is a little unstable, so I have my camera off. But hi, everybody. I just want to say, I teach at CUNY and I'm a department chair, and we're dealing with these same issues in terms of reopening and with the union and with faculty and staff and student concerns. And there's so much that's changing in terms of CDC guidelines. The DOE has not released any plan for next year, as we all know. So I'm not sure this discussion right now gets us anywhere. Yes, I'm sure there will be some teachers who have very valid reasons why they can't return next year, but we don't know what next year will be. So I think we've said all we need to say on this issue, because there's not really anything we're trying to decide here. So I say we wait and see what the CDC and DOE guidelines are, and we'll go from there. And I trust our administration will figure out how to deal with whatever the DOE throws at them, as they have been doing all year.
The only thing I will add, and I'll end it here, is that it's just, I find it somewhat interesting how when the science is convenient, it works. When the science is not convenient, we move on to something else. And this is kind of, I think, what we're running into in the public school system. That's my impression. And maybe it's mistaken, but that's my impression. That's my perception. So
I think we're getting very political. I disagree, but let's follow. I
do have relevant news on this.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. LaBella.
Go ahead, Vito.
So tomorrow night, CEC meeting, there are going to be 3 resolutions. One is to encourage everybody to get vaccinated, including children, as per the guidelines. I hope that's not controversial. We should encourage everyone to get vaccinated. That's one resolution. A second resolution is about summer school, which I think has already been, that might be moot because they've already sent out something that sounds really, really good. Whether or not they could deliver on that, that's a question, but it sounds like what they're offering is really good. And the third resolution is about September. And we've kind of come down with, we encourage people to get vaccinated, but we can't mandate either teachers or children to get vaccinated. And we want kids in there fully 100%, 5 days a week. But we are encouraging a remote option for students. And that seems to me, because of the discussions that we've had, is because we're encouraging that remote option because kids under a certain age can't get vaccinated probably maybe September, maybe the end of the year. And we just want to be reasonable, right? There might be somebody who has an autoimmune disease that needs to be accommodated, that it can't take the vaccine and they're afraid for a legitimate reason. I agree with Jeff. The medical accommodations are probably going to be narrowed, and appropriately so. I also think that we don't know what a remote option would look like, whether it would be school-wide, district-wide, borough-wide, or city-wide, right? We don't know. And I don't know how they could deliver a good product, but that would be something for the Brain Trust, I think, way above the people in the Zoom room to figure out. But so that's what's happening tomorrow, relevant to this conversation. And if anybody has any specific feelings about those specific things, I would be happy to take a few minutes to listen so I can act on it tomorrow.
Yeah, listen, I'm all for offering it for people who need it. I just think, from what I've heard, it's being offered to everyone. And I think that's silly. And I think a lot of the same people who are sort of saying it's the teacher's fault or it's someone's fault, are also the people who are against the mandatory vaccines, which would solve a lot of this problem. So let's leave it there.
Okay.
And go on to the budget. I think we could lower the temperature, get to some numbers. Mr. Berman.
Sure. So I'll start with our current budget, and then I'll share some good news moving forward. So it's all pretty much good news. The printing presses are running full steam, and the money is flowing. This year, we got some extra money. The set aside that we've been talking about came back to us. We've spent pretty much all of our money except for the money that's currently being used by our teams, which one of which was referred to earlier, our SEL team. We have other planning teams in place. We have curriculum teams. We have technology teams. And these teams are working to prepare for next year. So, and of course, there's money allocated in this year's budget to pay for all of those things. So we're in very, very good shape. I expect our new budget to come out in June at some point. will likely not come out before our last meeting. So one of the things related to our budget is the remuneration for everyone's service. You are entitled to $300, up to $300, which you should claim, because I'm sure you've spent more than 30 hours thinking about our school and working with our meetings here, whether they're PTA meetings, other meetings that you've attended, other parents or students who you've talked to. Some of you, I know we've talked at length for different things. Anytime you're talking with someone about school-related issues and things like that, it's all time that can be accrued for your school leadership hours. I know it's not an awful lot of money, but please, please, please take the money. If you don't take it, it goes back to the city. We don't want that. If you want to give it to the school, you can take it and write us a check for $300. That, you know, we're happy to do that. But I think you deserve it. It's a thankless job when you're volunteering and you're doing this kind of work, because parents who are not involved expect lots of other things without putting the time in that you all do, I guess, sometimes. But in the end, I know that you represent everyone. You represented them well. So please, Winnie's going to send out the remuneration forms. Just fill them out and send them in, and the DOE will send you your check. And I thank you very, very much. We'll talk a little bit about goals today. I know we'll have a major update for you once the new CEP information comes out for June. But I will say we are very interested in what you would like to see the direction of our school go. And while we can debate at length at this particular meeting or another meeting, I would very much like it to present some of the team's wishes, desires. If you email Winnie, Jeff, or myself what you think you would like to see in our school, whether it's supporting advisories, wanting to bring in other subjects, doing more social emotional learning, you know, looking at what's called learning loss and evaluating students. There's a district-wide evaluation coming out. I think we talked about it at the last meeting, but if we didn't, it's something our superintendent has arranged for every school, K-8, grade K-8 in our district. They will be assessed using iReady in reading, ELA, and in mathematics. And we're going to use that data to help plan and drive us forward. So it would be a little premature to set all of our goals before having all of that data to know really what we need to target, but we think we have a pretty good idea. Of course, you know, ELA and math are always areas that we target. So as far as new budgets and items, we haven't received those yet, but we've started to receive certain things. We talked a little bit about the unions before. The UFT has always been very generous, but they have been particularly generous now. About a month ago, they sent us options for technology packages that they were purchasing for schools. We were one of those schools who were selected. So they're sending us about $5,000 worth of technology, which will include some presentation stations, these OWL cameras, which look really cool for having meetings. Not sure how we're going to use them in a non-virtual world, but I'm sure there are going to be uses for that. They've also provided us with sensory materials for each classroom. Those are things like fidget spinners, bands for the chairs for folks like me who like to fidget and bounce their feet around, special chairs for kids to help them stay focused, beanbag chairs, things like that. So we've got 40 classrooms worth of that sensory equipment courtesy of the UFT coming. And just today, I received information about another grant from the UFT for next year in the amount of $20,000. And we can use that money for technology purchases, or we can also use it to fund our UFT Teacher Center teacher, who is Mr. Caccaro, which is going to be absolutely wonderful because, hopefully you've learned about our budget a little bit as we're going. If we can use $20,000 of UFT money to pay for Mr. Caccaro, then we can take $20,000 of money that we would spend on Mr. Caccaro and spend it on anything we want. So that's a really a great option and a great thing. So that's going to save us $20,000 in our budget, and that is, like I said, a really wonderful thing that the UFT has been doing. So those are some exciting budget updates that that have been coming up. I know we put in for new phys ed facilities with the Borough President's grant. I hope that Borough President Adams, as he is leaving the Borough President's office and aspiring to be the mayor, does the right thing by IS 187 and continues to fund us as he has in the past. He's given us well over $1.5 million over the past 5-6 years. So he's been a very, very generous contributor to our school, and I hope he continues to. So that's pretty much what I wanted to update you with the budget. Any questions or concerns or anything? I'm happy to answer and share.
Okay, I think
Wow.
if everyone's good, we're up to Vito, the PTO update.
Cool.
Okay, so this is where I beg. We have nobody stepping forward for anything. I just talked to Carla for anything. We have until the 18th. So 7 days from now, a week from today, we have elections. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not going anywhere. Kim is fundraising. I think we have Madeline. She's our VP. She's here. We could do something crazy like, maybe Madeline could be treasurer. Kim could be recording secretary. I could stay as president, but that's a big, big problem. Vito and Kim put tens of thousands of dollars a month sometimes on our credit cards. If we have any kind of those permutations, none of us, neither Madeline, neither Kim, neither Vito, can put anything on our credit cards because we need 3 separate kind of parties to write a check for the other, and we wouldn't have that, right? Kim and Vito can never co-sign a check. If Madeline's getting a check, Vito and Madeline can't sign a check together. It's a total disaster. It's a total disaster. Please, if you know anybody, even, Wink, Steve, you can step up and do one of them. If you could be a treasurer, or even if it's for 1 year, that would help us, right? But I think it's a factor of the remote thing, maybe. I've begged people on WeChat. I'm begging you here. This is it. If I don't know what we'll do. I really don't know what we'll do. I don't want to see this. We work very hard for a long period of time, and I don't know where we go. And it's not just here. Brooklyn Tech, 6,000 parents. Nobody, 6,000 parents. Nobody's interested. I don't know. I don't know what it is. So we have an election in a week. There we are. I mean, other than we hooked up the teachers this week. Happy to do so for Teacher Appreciation Week. Mr. Berman has helped us so much with the budget and paying for things. For us to feed the teachers, I would feed the teachers once a month if I could. But that's it. That's all I have for PTA. I'm going to be working with Mr. Berman about graduation and going in there. I'll be providing the support for the video and the YouTubing, and hopefully it's a great experience for everybody. If anybody has any specific questions, please ask me, but I need your help.
Great. What else have we got? I think we put enough pressure on Steve. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, it looks like Mr. Hederman has popped onto the screen.
How are you doing, everybody? Good to see you
Hello,
this
Mr.
afternoon.
Hederman. How are you?
Not much has changed since last month. Mr. McLachlan's coming along with his second play of the year. They'll have it done by June. One thing next week, the Lynx Club, we've gotten a speaker. His name is Kerry Magro to come speak to our population about autism awareness. I think they're still putting together how we're going to try to get as many students as possible involved in that, but that's next Thursday. Then we wish we had some more information about summer. Parents are starting to reach out, and there really hasn't been many updates if it's definitely going to be happening. I don't know if Mr. Berman's heard more. We're kind of just waiting to hear. And yeah, that's my response to every parent. As soon as we know, we'll get it out to the full population to let them know how it's working. Yeah, and then we're still in talks about trying to have some fun events by the end of the year for both our remote and our in-person students, some kind of things. And I'll be speaking with Vito and Miss Siddiqui tomorrow, and maybe we'll have more answers about that. But that's about it right now.
Okay.
Sounds great. And the SHSAT, how's that going?
Yeah, it's coming along 5 days a week. Over 200 seventh graders are participating. We got those books out to people. If anyone hears of someone that wasn't able to come get, we still have about 20 books out of the 200 that were never picked up. So there are still a couple books available if anybody still needs. They can reach out. Mr. File has them early in the morning. Somebody came to meet him, or I could meet people in the afternoon. Not a problem.
Thank you.
No
So
problem.
John, you could come to school at 7,
Yeah,
meet people if we need that.
sure.
Okay, just checking. All right. So as I think that's everything on the agenda. If anyone has anything, Effie, you have some to bring up?
Ask a question.
Effie's she's always the last minute person. About to hit leave, and then Effie steps.
Well,
to the
I'm just
plate.
wondering if anyone, I think this briefly came up earlier. Does anyone have any intelligence about the summer rising programs? Because I went into the summer rising, so I was trying to figure out what was going on. And I noticed the McAuliffe is not there at all. And if you could just give me, I'm having a little bit of difficulty figuring out what it is. Like, is it actually summer school?
Yeah, well, we could tell you about it.
Okay.
Do you want to talk, Mr. Berman, or you want me to?
I can tell you what I know, and then
Okay.
you can share what you know, Mr. Hederman.
Okay.
Sure.
What I know is that there will be an assistant principal from somewhere. I don't know where, and there will be some teachers, and I don't know who, and they may be teaching core subjects, ELA, math, social studies, and science from 8 to 12 at IS 187.
Okay.
Possibly. I don't know.
And these are kids from all over, or these are IS 187 kids?
No, it's
I don't
open
know.
to everybody. It is open to everybody. If our program doesn't exist yet, it has not been approved by the city, but there could be, they could end up putting another program from another school in our building. Like, there's nobody saying anything yet. Yeah, that's what we're waiting to hear.
Okay.
Right.
But I
I
can tell
always
you
seem to ask
something
these
about
questions about things that don't
So-
exist yet.
Right. So
Yeah.
So
we have the structure. If it does exist, it will begin at 8 a.m., 4 days a week until 4 p.m. And it will be half DOE teacher-led, hopefully core subjects. And then it'll be fun stuff like sports and art and things like that in the afternoon with lunch in the middle. And
Okay.
kind of like a handoff to DYCD, which is under the city. That's what I operate through.
Okay.
So it would be 8 to 4, 4 days a week is what they're planning.
Okay.
But we don't know if it will exist at our school yet.
So I mean, I presume this means, because I mean, I read the press release that came out from the mayor's office, and it was basically like a tiny little bit of information, and then like 25 million people saying what a great idea this was, and I couldn't really figure out what it was. But so there's going to be more information forthcoming about what the programs actually are. Is that what
Oh,
you're
we
saying?
sure hope so. We
Okay.
do.
Some of them are getting approved already. You could try to check out one of the other schools that they're listed online. Maybe 227 or 30 might have it approved already, and you could see what they say they're offering. And we'll have to create it on our own if we do get approved for it.
Oh, okay.
So we have to hear if we're getting funding for the program, and then it will have to all come together.
Okay. All right. That's good. Thank you.
I wish we had more information about it. I can tell you most of our teachers don't work summer school. They always have the opportunity to work in summer school, and generally they haven't. I don't particularly see that changing much this year. Yeah.
So how is Summer Rising different than regular summer school? Is it just bigger?
It's open to everyone. This is not for students that only require it, that are recommended by teachers, otherwise they're in doubt of passing. This is for any student in the district that just wants to get extra work in.
But it's also for students who are being held over.
Correct.
It's the same program.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's interesting to think about. Yes, so you're going to have, well, the teachers are going to have a tough job because they're going to have all different kinds of students, kind of like our school. Good luck to them. Our teachers are special when it comes to that, but they're going to have the task of making sure that students who have been held over despite all of the stuff going on with COVID and remote learning and all of that, and while at the same time, engaging, students of varying other levels.
Mr. Berman,
That's interesting. That'll be a
can I
challenge.
ask for a clarification, sir?
Sure.
So for my understanding is that there's like 3 separate tracks, right? I mean, there's the kids who need remediation. There's the kids who want an accelerated, maybe a 7th grader wants to do algebra now instead of get a head start on algebra. And there's also different interests. So there might be a course available in whatever that a child could work on. That's the way it was explained to me.
There are going to be 4 courses: ELA, math, social studies, and science, each one probably for an hour. And there will be, I don't know, depending on how many students there are, they're saying that there'll be a combination of blended and remote. I don't really know how that's going to work.
So nobody really knows, right?
Nobody
That's the bottom
knows.
line.
Nobody. Well, maybe somebody knows, but they haven't let the cat out of the bag yet.
Yeah, nobody knows.
No, and unfortunately, we're not going. We don't have the kind of resources to plan for summer school. In fact, we don't even. We're not going to be able to plan a blended and remote program for summer school. I don't see how that's going to happen.
They didn't provide me with any information saying it would be anything besides in person. I heard it was basically back to in person, as they want to use it as like a guinea pig pilot to see how it goes if you put everybody in person again.
They also gave our school capacity at 3,000 students.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where are we putting them?
Oh, I don't know.
Now they won't be 6 feet apart. They'll be 6 stacked on top of each other.
Possible.
Yeah, don't worry. I mean, really, they'll get their act together or they won't. It's really only 2 choices, and it's beyond us at this point. Whatever they decide to do, they'll do, and
we'll do our best to pull it off if we have to.
We'll do the best we can. That's all we can do.
We'll make it happen.
We'll do the best we can.
So NIA goes all summer, John? Like you work all summer doing NIA stuff?
Yes, normally our school isn't one that's open. It's open at various schools and they have different summer programs. Normally junior high programs run 5 weeks of 4 days. So that's what's happening again this year. I think elementary runs 6 weeks of 4 days, or 6 weeks of 5 days rather. And there's, daytime stuff.
Yep. Any other questions? Sorry, we don't have more answers. It's like the theme for this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know it's a challenge because you want to get things planned for the summer for your families. I know that. I wish I could be more help. I would say, if your child doesn't need the remediation, and you have the opportunity to do something really cool and fun this summer, I would do that. But I understand that not everyone has the means to do that or the time away from work. And, summer school may be an option to help in other ways. So,
John, would you be having a possible SHSAT summer program?
I don't see why not. It could definitely be something we do if we have teachers that are already willing to do it. That's the other thing. We got to find out how many students they would even want to be involved, and then we'd have to hire teachers and other staff based on that number. So we'd have to see if we could find people that were open to it.
That'd be fabulous if you could.
So yes, I'm just looking at the chat. There was a comment about how few students took the state test. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it was a waste of time, but Mrs. Loccisano, what did you think about the ELA test?
Well, I didn't see it because I was remote.
Good for you. So, right.
But from what the students told me, they told me it was very easy. And there were stories that were on the state test, this year's state test, that they had seen before on other practice tests that they've taken.
Probably an SHSAT class.
Yes. There was one specific about an owl that they remembered very well. So that's all I know about the test.
The old owl story.
Thank you. I would say that data is really meaningless. Not only that, but we'll get it sometime next year, which makes it even more meaningless. Makes it even more important that the iReady data that we'll collect from the district-wide assessments that are going to be going on, I think is going to be much more helpful and much more prescriptive for our teachers and students. Yeah.
Sandra?
Yes, Mrs. Song.
I have a question about Algebra 1 Regents. I understand it's optional, but how is that going to impact the Regents diploma? So in turn, does that mean the DOE is going to remove that from the Regents diploma, or, regardless of whether you take it or not, it's a check mark, and you will qualify for the same as long as you fulfill the other requirements?
That's a question that I haven't heard yet about, but it's a good question. I can only surmise that they'll still give students. It's not the actual exam. It's passing the class, right? It's that you have passed the Algebra Regents class, right? And in order to get credit for the class, you normally need to pass the Regents, but this year there's a waiver, so they don't need to take the Regents. But I will check with our guidance department and I'll have them find out that answer. I don't know if we're going to get an answer to that. They might not have thought of that yet, because that's sort of you know, ahead in the future when they graduate, whether they get that Regents diploma or not. But it is something you definitely want. And it's not just a sticker on the diploma. It's a few $1,000s if you go to a state school. So I'm with you.
Well, that's one of the determining factors, right? Because, hey, if I get it, I'll save my kid from having to deal with the stress of having to take the test.
Yeah.
But if I don't get it, I'm like, sorry, you're going to, sorry, kid, you're going to have to go do it because, this is an easy win.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say right now, don't worry about the Regents and having to come in and do that, but I'll get back to you on the Regents diploma.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think a lot of people seem to say they need to leave. The 4 o'clock bell has hit. So if there's no other questions, I think we're good, right?
Thank
If
you,
any questions
everyone.
come up, you can always email us.
Yep.
Thank you very, very much, everyone. And
Sending out
been
the
a pleasure.
email soon for their
Yep.
information.
Bye, everyone.